Alright. So please tell us how did your journey as an author began and what actually inspired you to go down with this path?
Well, those are two separate stories. My story with chess began in my childhood with my playing with my dad. He used to be his district champion, so there was a semi-steep learning curve going up, and I quite enjoyed it. That put me on the track of trying to understand chess, which I quickly realized is not something that can be done no matter how much time you have, because the game is quite infinite. But it has this ethos of getting better and better at understanding something that you are never going to understand completely, and that drew me to chess since I was a kid particularly. Writing also is something like that. It's when it's going well, it feels a lot like playing. So that I've always been a sports kid. I didn't like, in the sense that I've always liked playing something more than doing anything else, studying or research or anything like that. So I started writing simply because when I wrote, it started feeling like first I was doing something that was not a sport that felt like playing. So I started writing because of that, and the more I did, the more I got that feeling that here is a profession that doesn't feel like a profession, feels more like playing. So I stuck with it. This book in particular happened because I pitched an article to the Caravan in 2017, and while doing the article for them, I realized that the material for this is way too much, and trying to condense it into 3 or 4 thousand words would make it just another generic article, which I did not want to do. And so I stuck around with following the prodigies here. I conducted some interviews regularly with them. And looking at their growth chart, it became like this question that was very stuck in my head, that why is it that we are so fascinated with the idea of prodigies, especially in India? And how is it that someone who's dedicating their lives to something before they even know what dedication is, like at the age of 8, 9, or 10, how does that come about? How much of that is the person's internal drive? How much of it is someone else's expectation? How much of it is sacrifice? How much of it is, your love for the sport? Those are all easily confused. And I wanted to see where the line is drawn. So that's where the book comes from.
So I'm pretty sure that research is a very integral part of this. I want to know, as a journalist, how did you earn the trust of families and young players in such a high pressure ecosystem?
Well, more than having my trust, it was their graciousness. They were more than willing to talk to me, barring certain exceptions. It was not that difficult to give these interviews. Thankfully, some of them were interested in the topic themselves, because there's no single case study that has been done yet of how to deal with a prodigious child, especially in India, especially in the sporting sphere. So they themselves were interested. And other than that, you have to keep following up with them. Now these kids have become almost the equivalent of cricket superstars in India. So when I first started interviewing them, getting to them or their coach was much easier. But by the time I finished, Bhupesh was already world champion. So, and Pragnananda was in the candidates, and most of the people who are getting to their time and day is wait. So you have to wait a lot. You have to just follow up a lot and try to keep track of their activities even when they're not directly speaking to you. Like whatever interview they're giving, whatever tournaments they're playing, you have to follow those. And otherwise, I wouldn't say anything special on my part, but it's actually, they were very gracious, more than gracious to talk to me. And so one thing grew from another. Once you've spoken to a couple of people, they'll put you in touch with a couple more people. My editor, Mr. Devanshu Datta at Juggernaut, he's a formidable chess player himself. So back in the day, he used to play with like Vishwanath Anand and Dibredo Barwa sir and stuff. So he also put me in touch with some people. So that really helped out.
And do you think spending time with these children has somewhere shaped your understanding of success in these times?
Absolutely. Like I remember when I was a kid, I thought mostly success or not in sport, especially, is a function of talent. Like either you're born with it or you're not born with it, and if you're born with it, then there's not so much a part of luck or effort or support. It's mostly you going on your journey by yourself. But the more you read and the more you listen to these stories, the more you realize that that is not true. That the talent, like I say in the book, is like a pen. It's whether it works or not is no guarantee that you have a story to tell. Talent is just like a pen. So that was the greatest learning. And apart from that, the value of support, it comes out very well, because when we look at athletes, it's generally an individual pursuit, and you tend to look at them in isolation. But when you realize that just to put the kid on the table and on the chair on which the game is being played, so much is happening back behind the scenes, and the parents, the coaches, their managers, their friends, everybody is putting their school, everybody is putting their best foot forward for the thing to happen at all. And the biggest lesson I learned was just this, that nothing, like even if you're born supremely gifted, it's not, nothing is going to come easy.
Very true. So I want to know, is there a specific prodigy story that has stayed with you till now?
From this book or in general,
Your favorite?
my favorite prodigy story actually is mentioned in the book, but it's not from the people I interviewed. It was from a prodigy way back in the day. His name was Samuel Lisefsky. He started playing chess only, but at the age of roughly 4. Like until some few years ago, if you still Googled chess prodigy, then the Wikipedia entry had still Lisefsky's face as the poster boy for prodigies. But his story is very instructive because he started doing way too many events that were not exactly, strictly speaking, serious chess, because he used to play a lot of simultaneous exhibitions. He played players that were not so big at chess, but he played people on Moss. He played people for the masses, and he became truly a sensation in America when he was young. But his story is actually emblematic of what can go both right and wrong about prodigies, because he got overtaken by Bobby Fischer. When he started off playing chess later than him, but he became single-mindedly obsessed with chess and nothing else. So he was just invested in playing more chess, playing the best players, and so he went on to become world champion. Whereas Risevsky, as he grew older, he did not significantly improve from the way he started as a kid. He played for the world championship several times. We were expected of him to win the way he had begun, but he never made it to the top. And it's like all the cautionary tales that you can have about the gifted child, which does not quite blossom into the fullest potential that it could have. It's very well encapsulated by Risevsky's story. He played Fischer also several times, but he does not have a good track record against Fischer. And Fischer went on to become the greatest chess player ever by just, I would say, way too much devotion, because he actually did drive him crazy towards the end. But he was willing to go all the way, perhaps too far in the way, whereas Risevsky somehow lagged behind because he became more of a show pony than a serious chess player way too early. So that's one of the stories which you must really keep in track to. I think it's a good instructional manual for how to deal with being gifted.
Um, I'm definitely understanding that you're very passionate about sports, and that's why this is a very enjoyable thing for you to do. But when it comes to research, when it comes to writing, there are always certain challenges that people miss out on. What do you think was your challenge during when you were writing this book?
I don't know how much this is relevant or instructional to other people. My personal challenge, biggest challenge was having some sort of structure, because it's difficult for me to sit and work for long phases of time at a time. And for this book, once you have all the material, there's so much material, and I'm not much of a note taker, so stuff is generally swimming around in my head for the most part. So once you sit down with the sheer amount of material, the first 5, 10,000 words, you wonder what is going where. And if you have enough, or if your book is going to be like 1 lakh words, it's going to be bloated. So trying to figure out, since it was my first time writing a book length work of non-fiction, I've done fiction before, but non-fiction, this was my first. So finding a sort of structure goes with what is going on with the book, and the structure in my day of where should I be, what should my day look like, and that was actually the toughest part. Doing the research because is relatively easier, because information is easier to gather now. Whatever you want is, like, if someone is giving an interview all the way across the world, you can access it instantly. So research per se is wasn't the hardest part, but trying to keep it all in my head and trying to figure out this slots here, this slots here, this slots here, and more than actually sitting down for long periods of time, because writing can be quite distressing. Some days it's not happening and you're on a deadline, someone's calling you, and personally for me it can get distressing at some points. So that tends to take away from the reward that you get out of the writing. Actually, writing is done best when it is fun to do. So the more pressure you take, much like any other sport, the less likely you are to do well. So that was actually the biggest challenge for me. Hopefully we get better going forward, because this was my first time. I've had a lot of lessons to learn from this. So let's see.
Well, I'm pretty sure that this book will create a great impact on all sports enthusiasts. Is there any message that you would like to give to your audience, to your readers?
If there's anything I learned from writing this book, it was that the last line of the book says, for any pursuit, even a pursuit as rational as chess, love is the only thing that makes you transcend what is humanly possible. And it sounds very corny when said prima facie, because love is a word that has been used and abused to the highest extent in our society, but it's one of those cliches that is a cliche because it bears out a lot of truth. So if there's any message I have, is that if you want to do anything beyond like the 90th, 95th percentile, which you can get through, like, I don't know, dedication or hard work or just luck or connections or whatever, the final 5 percentile, or this, especially the final 1 percentile between 19 and 100, there is no substitute for loving the thing that you are doing. Otherwise, you're not going to get it done.
Very true. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your time, for being here. And it was lovely having a conversation with you, and all the best to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Hi guys, this is Binit Priyaranjan. My book, The Price of Genius with Juggernaut Publishers, is now available on BooksWagon.com. Grab yourself a copy and learn how the rest of the bets are doing it.